Hello, and welcome to the session, The Rise of the Gig Economy, Empowering a New Generation of Workers. My name is Emily, and I'm an editor at Quirks. Before we get started, let's quickly go over the ways you can participate in today's discussion. You can use the chat tab to interact with other attendees during the session, and you can use the Q&A tab to submit questions for the presenters. Our session is presented to you by Visa. Enjoy the presentation.
Hi, my name is Michael Nevski, Director of Global Insights at Visa. I lead global thought leadership, working with the global economic team, delivering new trends and consumer behavioral insights across enterprise and catering to our clients across the globe. I'd like to talk about the gig economy. Why is it different? Why is it important in the United States? Recently, we conducted a study back in April of this year to really understand and get a better picture of gig workers in the United States. Well, let's try to dissect and understand who they are and what they are. So the gig work stays vital to the US economy. It's primarily driven by Gen Z and millennials, younger population. Also, gig workers value more flexibility and independence than income. So additional income is important, but as you will see, actually they're doing it out of passion and flexibility. And definitely we talk a lot about generative AI, agentic AI lately, and definitely technology and AI transforming the gig economy, allowing gig workers to be more flexible and more efficient. And last but not least, the conclusion we came to that more fluent Americans are likely to engage in a side hustle, and that's a very interesting notion to keep in mind. Well, what's the population of gig workers in the United States? Based on our study, we identified about 14% of the population who get involved in the gig work. So it's every sixth working person in the United States, one way or the other, is involved in gig economy. When it comes to how they do it, quarter of them doing it full time and three quarters part time, and about every fifth person actually doing it as a side hustle, freelance work, selling products, ride sharing, and many other involvement. When it comes to actually primary versus supplemental income, majority of them, or 56%, almost 3 out of 5, saying that I'm doing it as to extract my primary source of income. So it's a very good indicator that people are serious about what they do and they get involved on a full-time basis. Not full-time basis, but as a primary income. When it comes to geographies, of course, the Silicon Valley and meaning many companies moving down south, like Texas, influencing that as influencing the gig workers as well. What you see here, 7 out of 10 gig workers, 70% of them reside in the south or west regions of the United States. And when we think about creating products or services specifically catering to gig workers, that geographic segmentation is very important to understand where they reside and where to approach them. Another factor, which very often people feel that gig work is about Uber or Lyft driving, and that majority of them are actually doing it via digital platform to find the engagement, to find the clients. Actually, it's not the case. Based on our study, what we see that 3 out of 5 gig workers are doing the gig involvement directly, find clients directly, teaching piano lessons, walking dogs, and not using the digital platform. Only every fifth person, or 23%, actually stated that they use Fiverr, TaskRabbit, or Uber platform to get involved in the gig. And last category, but not least, every sixth person actually doing it as an independent contractor without business license, pretty much like a 1099. When I'm an IT architect and I do 6 months contract with one company, one engagement at a time, and then I switch and working for somebody else. And it provides that flexibility for them. They when it talks about actual population and breakdown of that population, when we look at who is driving the gig economy, as I mentioned earlier, it's the younger people, and that's what we see here. When it comes to overall population, Gen Z represent 20% of the US population, every fifth person. But when it comes to part-time gig work, it's every third person who actually is a Gen Z. Similar situation with millennials, while representing 22%, when it comes to full-time, they dominate. 45% of all full-time gig workers are millennial workers. And not only that, boomers also get involved. While they represent 21% in the population, when it comes to part-time gig workers, 60% of them are boomers, actually, who is doing that. A similar situation with the income. It's not all the same. So 45% of all gig workers are sitting in a lower income bracket, under 50K income per household. When it comes to full-time, it's a mid-income consumers, 52%, and part-time, again, low income represent almost half of them, 48%. And when it comes to side hustle, very interesting notion. 13% of side hustlers are affluent consumers with income of over 150,000 K. So it tells us that there are some reasons why they get involved to extract that secondary income. And we'll talk about that later. When we continue with the segmentation, demographic segmentation, actually, interesting fact, while male workers overall and the gig workers leading the way in many aspects of gig economy, but side hustle, that's where female workers dominate. 3 out of 5 actually have a propensity to get involved in a side hustle. It's a very interesting notion. That means they have a full-time job somewhere else, and they get in the side hustle involvement to generate that extra income. And we need to keep that in mind as brands and service and product providers. When it comes to reasoning why they get involved in the gig economy, what you see here, that flexibility and independence are major factors for many of them. But when it comes to actual secondary income to offset the rising cost of living, it's about the side hustle. And remember, 13% of them actually are affluent consumers. So they get involved into the side hustle because they want to save. But not only that, it's also about maybe following their passion. Well, I have the work, but I may be teaching how to play football or doing something on the weekends, right? So we need to keep that in mind. So that means money is not the number one factor. It's about the fashion. And when it comes to the sociological involvement, why they're doing it, the side hustle is impetus to bigger, better things, career-wise overall for them. Because you can see here, especially side hustlers, see their career as an opportunity to accomplish more. I think of making it as an ongoing journey rather than a final destination. Again, side hustles leading that way because they want to achieve much more. Maybe they're following their passion and developing their skills and doing something they love. And we need to keep that in mind. Again, with the milestones, with being energized about their future because they're doing something what they're passionate about. And again, it tells us that money is not everything. It's more, gig economy is more aspirational. And that's what we see here. Because when we compare different segments or groups of gig workers with the total population, we see that their optimistic view of their family financials is lower than overall Americans. And what it tells us again, they're doing it out of passion or flexibility, not having a boss, or flexibility of time, location. So again, those are my primary impetuses for gig workers to get involved in the gig economy and live in corporate America, for example, or living for full-time jobs. However, while, as we discussed, they have a lower income overall, they're doing it out of passion, and they probably spend less. And you might say, Michael, why are we talking about the gig economy if they are not high earners? Because they follow that passion and they planning on splurging in certain areas of their life within the next 6 months, which are important to them. And it creates the opportunity for us as brands. And as you can see here, especially with side hustles and full time, it's about restaurant and dining. It's about travel. It's about experiences because they want to enjoy and experience what is important to them in certain areas of their life. Similar, they also spend on certain products and categories which are important to them. And considering that it's a younger population, fashion and fitness are two categories where they spend more than all consumers, especially full-time and side hustle workers. And that's what you see here. And we need to keep that in mind because while they're not going to probably spend in certain other areas, they're going to spend and overspend in the areas which are important to them. And it creates opportunity for them to become kind of a heavy buyer, not a medium, not a light, but heavier spender in that category. Another example when it comes to grocery, especially for full-time and side hustle gig workers, as you can see here, because body is their temple, and they rather pay premium for organic or antibiotic-free products because it's important to them what they eat and what they experience. Similar situation with full-time, full service, restaurant and QSRs, where they spend more because again, they're looking for those experiences, dining experiences, taste experiences, and it creates opportunities for us as brands. However, they are more of a debit nation than credit nation. As you can see here, debit and app-based payments are dominant for them, more common. But it's not only because lower income, but also because they're not doing the full-time W-2 work. So their access to credit probably is more challenging because it's not considered as a more permanent job. So we need to keep that in mind as we create products and services, especially in the financial services. When it comes to type of mobile payments, digital wallet payments, PayPal dominates, but it's true for all categories, including all Americans. All American consumers prefer PayPal versus Venmo or Apple Pay. And to summarize this presentation, so from insight to action, what does it mean for financial services and merchants, like many brands we represent? So number one, as I mentioned earlier, we need to create those credit opportunities to make them credit users because financial institutions sometimes look at the situation much more linear. So gig workers needs more instant payments opportunities, needs to access to credit lines, which kind of consider their cash flow, which is different from small businesses. Also, splurging versus financial optimism. We need to balance those spending habits with financial optimism, understand where they spend, what categories they overspend, and what categories they pull back and actually indicate more of a fiscal responsibility. And last but not least, when it comes to financial services, we need to offer more flexible credit options like innovative payment solutions and personalized financial advice for their particular situation, their type of engagement and income and cash flow. And when it comes to merchants, it's more about flexible payments, like buy now, pay later, for example, one of the options. More personalized loyalty program. Let's say if they are digital nomads and travel around the world, maybe they need certain products and services which can accommodate that, like a cross-border payments and staying in certain type of hotels or hospitality places, and more tailored personalized offers, not always discounts, maybe something exclusive like exclusivity. With that said, that concludes my presentation of a gig workers economy, and I'm happy to entertain any questions you might have for me. Thank you.